What's going on, guys? JSGC here, back again with another Manchester City reaction video, where today we're going to be reacting to Man City's 2-1 loss away from home against Newcastle in the Premier League. Disappointing for Manchester City, a chance to go just 1 point behind Arsenal at the top of the Premier League and get pressure applied to them ahead of the North London derby tomorrow at the Emirates Stadium, with Arsenal taking on Tottenham Hotspur. Instead, Arsenal now have got the chance to go 7 points clear of Manchester City, and all that hard work that we've been doing really since the September international break just coming undone with these difficult away games that Man City just aren't managing to pick up points and pick up wins against. Aston Villa at Villa Park, Newcastle here at St James's Park, and further reiterating to me that, you know, we're in a transition season. We look better, in my opinion, than what we looked last season. However, there's certain aspects of Man City's game that we've still got so long to go before we are back to our very best and a team that's, able to start winning the big trophies. And once again, we're just further suggestion looking towards a season of transition here for Manchester City. And my overall conclusions that I was looking at from this game was I'm seeing some improvements from City as a whole so far this season, and I think Man City will make improvements on the points tally that we accumulated from last season, which was the low 70 points. I think City are capable of getting to the high 70 points, maybe even to the low 80 points. The question is that enough to win the Premier League this season? Well, you want to turn low 80s into high 80s, you need to go to Villa Park, you need to go to Newcastle and not lose them games, win them games in an ideal situation. And at the moment, Man City just aren't quite there yet. Obviously, we always seem to have a bigger push in the second half of the season, so I'm not going to sit here and lose the plot, especially if Arsenal end up dropping points tomorrow. Then it's it's not too much damage done to Manchester City. But I just thought this game was a real good indication towards, are Man City going to potentially win the Premier League or not in May? And I get my answers. I get my answers from Villa Park. I get my answers from St James's Park, and we've just not turned up and made it happen, and it's disappointing. And there's various reasons why Manchester City haven't managed to come away with points today from St James's Park. And for me, anyone that was watching my live stream knows what direction I'm going to go in with this, because there's two big errors that Man City have made in this game for me. The first comes down to being clinical, so we'll take a moment just to speak about the game. Man City created some good opportunities. There's a couple of good chances for Erling Haaland, a real good chance for Phil Foden, especially in that first half. There was opportunities for Jeremy Doku. There was obviously the appeal on the handball, which the arm was up but by the side of his body, so we look towards clear and obvious with a penalty not given on the field. I mean, if a penalty was given on the field, I don't think there'd have been enough to have overturned it, because I didn't think it was clear and obvious. And I think to myself that if this was the other way round and it was Newcastle attacking and Man City, one of our defenders had their arms in that position, I'd be looking at them and I'd be going, well, you shouldn't be having your arm there in the first place. I'm disappointed by that, but I'd also be disappointed if a penalty was given against us for it. If his arm's away from the body, I'd say you'd have more of a case of a penalty than obviously right next to his body. Should his arm be there? No. Should the question be asked? Yes. Do I think it's a penalty? I'm not so sure. I think Man City did have a good solid case for a penalty in that first half, and it came on Fabian Schar's challenge on Phil Foden. Yeah, Phil Foden's already had his shot. Yeah, it's gone wide. Yeah, it has no impact on the game. The thing is, there's a follow-through. Fabian Schar doesn't get the ball. He takes the man, and the man goes down. It's as clear of a foul as I've ever seen. And anywhere outside of the penalty area, a free kick would be given. If this was just outside the penalty area, even if Phil Foden booted that ball into Rosette, it's irrelevant. A free kick would be given because the defenders slid in, the defender was reckless, the defender's not won the ball, the defenders took the man. It's a foul. If it's a foul outside the penalty area, I know things can be a bit different inside the penalty area, but as far as I'm concerned, as follow-through, he doesn't win the ball. It's a penalty, and I don't know why a penalty wasn't given. But I don't want to dwell too much on that or start pointing fingers towards the referee, because I don't think the referee was the reason why we've not picked up points today. I wouldn't have been surprised if City did get a penalty and we'd missed that penalty. What does surprise me is how clinical Man City have been so far this season, especially in form Erling Haaland, Jeremy Doku finding his feet really nicely, and I see Man City having opportunity after opportunity after opportunity and not taking it and missing their opportunities. That's a fatal error as far as I'm concerned. At the end of the day, football comes down to which team's going to be clinical. When you take on Manchester City, if you're going to have a pop and try and attack against us like Newcastle did, They're going to have opportunities, and we're also going to have opportunities. So it's going to become a game. Rather than, X, Y, and Z deciding what happens in the game, it's just going to come down to who's going to put the ball in the back of the net the most. And they're the kinds of games where I'd say maybe 8 times out of 10, I'd expect Man City to win, because we're just a team that's possessed full of attacking talent. I'd expect the likes of Phil Foden, Erling Haaland, Rayan Cherki, Jeremy Doku to be having shots on target, asking questions of Nick Pope, finding the back of the net once or twice. The amount of good opportunities that we had, our expected goal rate was well over 1. I'd have expected City to have come out that first half with a couple of goals. We didn't come out with any. That's a big error as far as I'm concerned. And it was the same in the second half. Good opportunities that just City were very wasteful. We could easily have scored 4 or 5 goals in this game and won this game. And it was a bit of a ding-dong battle. I know the statistics in terms of possession aren't going to suggest it, but Newcastle had just as many good opportunities as what Manchester City did, and they were wasteful too. They could easily have come out with 4 or 5 goals if it weren't for the quality of Donnarumma in goal. In the end, it's taken a good bit of individual brilliance that Newcastle have seen from Harvey Barnes, because everybody else was being pretty wasteful. Harvey Barnes might have missed a sitter in the first half, but he wasted no time in the second half getting over that and winning this game for Newcastle. Yeah, Man City might feel hard done by from the offside and the build-up for the second goal and the sleeve of Ruben Dias, but the situations, it is what it is, and it is frustrating when these decisions go against you. It's frustrating when it happens in the first half with the penalty call. It's frustrating with the VAR and the offside going against you in the second half to give Newcastle a goal as well. At the end of the day, though, you're not going to defend your set pieces, and you're not going to be clinical in front of goal. You aren't going to win games. You aren't going to pick up points. You're going to lose games and go into difficult places like Newcastle. They're always difficult places to go, and you're going to struggle. We know how physical, how strong, how good Newcastle can be. None of that is a surprise to Manchester City. Yet at times this brings me on to, for me, the biggest mistake that City had in this game, and the most fatal error is Man City in terms of our ball retention and creating opportunities and controlling games all comes through midfield, and our midfield just weren't on it today, unfortunately. I was hoping to see much more from the likes of Phil Foden, Rayan Cherki, Bernardo Silva and Nico Gonzalez, and we lacked that physical presence. And in an ideal world, we'd have Rodri fully fit, and we could have had Rodri in midfield helping the likes of Nico Gonzalez, and obviously Tijjani Reijnders not deemed to be the player that's going to help City in such a physical battle, and the likes of Bruno Guimaraes, Joelinton, Sando Tonali, they just bullied Manchester City at times, and you saw how heated, how passionate Newcastle's midfield were at the end of the game, moaning, complaining, aggression and stuff, and that's the kind of attitude you need if you want to win games. And I'd just like to see Man City be a little stronger on their defending and set play, stronger on their midfield battles, on them individual duels, and in the end, the lesson here is they got bullied, and that's something that Manchester City, I think, need to have a good long look at. It's not going to happen in the January window, but it should happen next summer when we're looking at potentially replacing some players in midfield. I'm looking towards Bernardo Silva towards the end of his contract. I'm looking towards Kovacic. I don't think he'll be here next season. So I'm looking at 2 big holes in Man City's midfield, and I think we lack a lot of physical presence because Newcastle bullied us, and other Premier League teams are going to be watching this. The likes of Leeds United, Sunderland that we've got coming up, they're going to be looking at this and thinking midfield battles, and it doesn't have to be a case of quality. Liverpool had that quality in midfield, Alexis McAllister, Gravenberch, but they didn't have that physical presence, 3 solid midfielders that are going to bully other midfielders. We didn't have that, unfortunately, in this game, and that stopped us from getting some control. We needed that in this game, and we struggled because of it. But it's nothing that wouldn't have sorted out had Man City been clinical in the first place and put their opportunities away. Because I said this in my preview, I said this in my live stream, and I'm going to say it in my reaction here as well. The team that's going to win such a close, tight game at St James's Park, I didn't expect it to be a draw. I knew there'd be a winner. It's always going to come from the team that scores first, and if you're not going to score first, you're going to struggle. Now, we did really well to actually find an instant response through Ruben Dias from a set piece, which was nice to see, but everything else, I'm struggling. I don't really have that many positives to take from this game. There's games that we've lost where I've just looked at it and just said, we've not done anything wrong other than we've just not put our chances away. Work on your shooting in training and come back to it again in your next game. But I look at this and I do have genuine concern about Man City's physical play, because we've just not we weren't on it. And this is such a difficult game to do straight after the international break. You know, this might have been different if this was just before the international break and you got a bit of momentum, but c'est la vie, as they say. It is what it is, and you just got to deal with the fixture list as it come and goes. The fixture list is the same for everybody else. There isn't really any excuses, and in the end of the day, you know, Manchester City just haven't found a way to deal with Newcastle. We didn't find a way to deal with Aston Villa, and you know, we've still got other very tricky, very difficult away games to go between now and the end of the season. And Arsenal now, they'll be rubbing their hands. You know, they're fancying the chances, going 7 points clear. You'd expect them being the home team to win against Tottenham tomorrow. So yeah, it's just something that we've got to deal with. We've got to move on, and we've got to get over it and just focus on the next game. There's not much turnaround time between our match against Bayer Leverkusen in the Champions League. I look at the schedule. I'm looking at Leeds United and Sunderland as home games that are coming up, and we've got to, you know, we've got to make these games count. I think there's a Fulham away game in there midweek too. You know, you've got to go to these places. You've got to play these teams. You've got to do everything you can to pick up the points, and you know, just take it game by game and see if any progress can be made. What I would say is, if Man City, for me, throughout the rest of 2025 in terms of the Premier League, want to be competing and be within, I'd say, maybe 4 or 5 points of Arsenal, if they win tomorrow, I think we need to win out between now and New Year's Day. So yeah, cause for concern, and I get the frustrations and the concern. Man City, when they lose games, obviously, you know, we're a very successful team. I think people just struggle in their heads to deal with that. Obviously, there's a lot of fans out there who've supported Man City for a long time. I'm 20 years plus now of supporting Manchester City. I've seen us lose games, I've seen us win games, I've seen us have heartbreak, I've seen us have tremendous success and stuff, and you know, losses hurt. There's nothing else more you can do about it other than you just got to focus on the next game. When you're in transition, you're in transition. You just got to try and focus. You just got to try and get over the mistakes and learn from them, and you know, deal with it as quickly as possible. We've got Newcastle second half of the season at the Etihad Stadium. I'd be looking at that and saying, win them midfield battles, you're capable of going out there and scoring 4 or 5, which could have been the case today. Newcastle could have as well. They've missed a couple of sitters that could easily have gone and scored 4 or 5. So City wide open. That defence causes me a bit of concern too, and it's probably the first time I've said that with Nunes, O'Reilly, Dias, Gvardiol, and just circumstantial stuff, isn't it really? Got to find ways to score the opening goal, and it just shows the power of gameplay and situational play that, you know, things go your way, you get that penalty call, you score that penalty, and the game becomes a completely different game, and we'd probably sit here having a different discussion, but it hasn't, and that's football for you, and it's not changed in 20 years, and I can guarantee the next 20 years it's not going to change either. So frustrating night, got to deal with it. It'd be a huge bonus if we could get a favour off Spurs tomorrow. So, you know, Spurs pull off a win tomorrow, that'd be very unlikely, but if they pulled off a win, all of a sudden no damage done and we're a difficult away game down, and the only team that would be left happy towards the top would be Chelsea. So anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts, guys, in the comments. That'd be much appreciated. What have you made of the loss today for Manchester City? What are your concerns? Any positives? Do let me know in the comments below. Don't forget as well to leave a thumbs up. That'd be much appreciated. Let me know that you are enjoying the videos. Do subscribe as well if you're new around here. Plenty more City content to come throughout the season, so don't forget to subscribe. It is free. Social media links there in the description too if you want to go and follow me on my X, Instagram and TikTok. Email also in the description too if you want to hit me up for any sponsorships for any videos or any general business inquiries, and I'll see you all again real soon for the next one. So I've been JSGC. Thank you everyone for watching. Hope everyone is safe and well. Peace. Ciao for now.